Tae Hea Nahm, and I really appreciate this opportunity to share with you our latest methodology on unlocking growth. It's something that I've been really focusing on for more than 15 years because as an early stage venture capitalist, I realized that at the end of the day, we really focus on this question of unlocking growth because what we found is that if companies unlock growth, we tend to make money. And if companies don't unlock growth, we tend to lose money. And since we've invested over 200 B2B software companies over the last 15 years and had 12 unicorns, really started going into trying to figure out the patterns of how to unlock growth. Yes. So this is just a quick background, and as I mentioned, I've written 2 books, and also we've invested in 12 unicorns. But what we have in this environment, even though everyone talks about being in a tough financial environment, is that on one hand, we still have trillions of dollars chasing high growth. So if you're a high growth company, the money is there. At the same time, there's just a huge number of startups at the bottom because accelerators, incubators all around the world wanted to recreate Silicon Valley and was creating all these startups. And what separates these two is simply high growth. And so what I want to talk about is how to become a high-growth company. And I'll be using a surfing metaphor because a high-growth company feels like when you're surfing a big wave. You know, you're effortlessly going fast. You know, it's like having a very good capital efficiency and going a long distance. Now, some people ask me, do I surf? I tried, I failed. But my co-founder, Ryan Floyd, loves to surf, and so he helped me a lot with the surfing metaphors here. And what we see is that with many startups, is that startups are really struggling at this stage, and it feels like you're paddling in the ocean. You're working so hard to go a short distance. These are companies that are stuck at product market fit. They have 10, 12, 20 customers, but they just can't seem to unlock and get a lot of customers. So when people ask, well, what should I do? You know, first, everyone wants to become the mythical surfing unicorn. Is the common answer that we hear is you just got to scale. You know, raise a lot of money, hire a lot of sales reps, spend more on marketing. They got product market fit, and so with that, you should be really positioned to scale growth. We tried this with several companies, and we lost a lot of money, is what we found. Is that between paddling and surfing, you have to catch the wave. In the same way, between founder growth and scaling growth, there's a critical step, which is unlocking growth. And that you need to unlock growth before you can scale. And many times also, companies that are scaling somehow lose it, and they have to re-unlock growth. So unlocking growth turns out to be something that's really critical here. And as for us as investors, it's key to our returns. And so we've been researching this question and want to share with you that our view right now on terms of exactly how to unlock growth is really to combine what customers want, as outlined in the customer journey, with what teams do, which is outlined in the playbook. And so we're going to go through this quickly through a 3-step process. One of what we say, read the wave, which is really outlining this hero customer journey, this very specific customer journey. Second is the right surfboard, which is really coming out with a playbook which is optimized for the customer journey. And the third is tuning your surfboard, is how to fix problems in your customer journey playbook. So let's start with the hero customer journey, which is reading the wave. So it all starts with customer empathy, but as our previous speakers talked about, when you want to do product-led growth, you want to do sales-led, everyone talks about customer empathy. And in many ways, it sort of feels like motherhood. It's like saying, you know, get an A on a test. The question is sort of how. And so when you think of companies and you say customer empathy, well, who is the customer? If JP Morgan's the customer, well, you don't sell to JP Morgan. You sell to someone at JP Morgan. And so the question is, which persona? And you find there are users, there's the economic buyer, there's influencers, and at some point you're overloaded with enterprise personas. And so what we say is just focus on the champion. The champion's the one that's going to sponsor you, drive you, and push you through that organization. Champion may not be the one with the budget, but it's the one that will drive it through. And so as a result, we want to focus on the customer journey of the champion. With that, we outline this hero journey. So let's start with what the customer looks at you. When I meet founders tend to be brilliant people, visionaries, and so they think that, they're a superstar. When customers look at founders, this is how they look at founders. And basically saying, do you want to be their first patient? Well, the answer is obviously no, right? Doesn't matter what school these kids came out of, you don't want to be their first patient. In the same way, the answer is customers should not buy from startups. You should buy from a proven vendor. And so when we talk about, this whole approach we're going to talk about is not product-led, sales-led, or any particular motion. It's really going to be tied about customer empathy. And so now we ask, okay, so you're telling me customers should never buy from startups, but I invest in early-stage startups, so how do I break that dichotomy? Is that it turns out customers buy from startups for two reasons. One is they can become a hero. And so this is a quote. We did a podcast with Ashwin Bilal. He's CIO Medallia. Before, he was CIO of KLA Tencor. And he looks at it where he, as a customer, thinks like a co-founder and really wants to work with that company. These people are great. If you can find customers that want to be heroes by working with you, that's fantastic. They're for the brave, but the few, you just can't get 100 of them. You could get maybe 2 or 3. The big reason why you can get customers in the beginning is because they have an urgent pain. An urgent pain means they have to do something right now. Not 6 months from now, not a week from now. They have to do it right now. And so as a result, they can't make the safe and easy decision, which is to wait. So the idea of becoming a hero in urgent pain relates to sort of a model I have of a B2B buyer, of someone that's relatively smart but lazy and wants to look good in front of their boss. Okay? So how do you look good in front of their boss is to become a hero. How do you overcome laziness is urgent pain. So as a result, what we say is that the way we start the customer journey with your champion is you start with an urgent pain. And so we're going to go through these 9 steps, but the first one is this sort of urgent pain. And that if you don't have if you're not addressing an urgent pain, it doesn't matter whether you're sales-led, product-led, what your go-to-market strategy is, you're just not going to get traction. Because your typical customer is busy, and they're going to say, well, I'll look at it a week from now. And next week, a week from now. And so it just never gets addressed. So how do you find an urgent pain? So I want to share this story with you. April Ko, she's a college dropout. She read our book, Survival or Thrival, and really helped her crystallize her go-to-market. And with that, she's been quadrupling revenue for the last few years, and she's now going to be 9-digit in revenue. Her company is doing AI in mental health. And so how she found the urgent pain, she said, is that she did another pitch to healthcare executives that was just flopping. No one was listening. She was at about $500,000 ARR at the time, 10 customers, but it just wasn't growing. And she said, at the end of the pitch, one executive says to me, you should talk to our HR department because our employees, physicians, nurses are really struggling with burnout and serious issues like suicide, so maybe your tool can help. She goes, I was desperate, so I asked and took the meeting. My pitch to HR was the first time anyone listened to my entire pitch without looking at their phones, even though it was a very early pitch, and we knew we were onto something at that point. So the way to look at it is, I guess this is a good metaphor here in Texas, like drilling for oil, So finding an urgent pain is like drilling for oil. So this was her founding idea, was to build clinical decision support tools for primary healthcare providers to sort of help doctors prescribe more or less antidepressants and other mental health drugs. The urgent pain was to do a personalized care plan for employers. And so she pivoted from the founding idea to the urgent pain. So we have this sort of three-step process to find the urgent pain, which is cast a wider net than your founding idea. To founders, it'll feel like heresy, because the whole reason why you started the company is your founding idea, but cast a wider net. And then second, you can find the urgent pain. Turns out urgent pain is very easy to measure. Urgent pain is just simply how many days does it take from the first meeting to the next. If they meet you the next day, you have an urgent pain. If they meet you in 6 months, it's not an urgent pain. And there are many ways to drill that you can. And so as a result, once you find the urgent pain, then you look for who are the customers, that's your ICP, and how you're using force, your ideal use case. After the urgent pain, the next one becomes why you. And with that, you need a very simple and compelling wow. And the wow is what really excites your prospects and makes them into a champion. You can tell it because they change their body language. They say, I want to meet your boss, meet my colleagues. So you can see things change. Here are some examples of wows. In TalkDesk's case, it's because their call center software was so easy to use. If you use it, you hire 2 agents, and you have a call center working the next day. So you have a call center working in 24 hours, and you can go from 2 agents to 2,000 agents. So the software scales as well, too. As we're going through this, though, and talking about wows, I was in a workshop with one of our companies, and I said, you don't have a wow. He says, we have a wow. And it turns out that you need 2 very different wows. You need a date wow to excite your champion, to make the person into a champion. It's like, why have a second date? And then you need a marry wow, which is really about the champion's boss, the champion's colleagues, the committee, to persuade them to marry you. It's like getting the family approval. And so that's why, a date wow, which tends to be something exciting and addresses the urgent pain and helps at the top of the funnel. And the marry wow usually addresses something strategic, why this is a good long-term relationship, and so forth. And then after that, the next key step is first contract. And within the company, we celebrate. I get text messages from the CEO about the big win, all that. Just want to point out that our customer is a completely different state of mind. This is a quote from JJ, who was managing director of cyber risk at Barclays. He goes, when he picked Mobile Iron, our company, to work with, he said, if the product didn't work, I was going to get fired. So while the company is celebrating the 7-figure win, he is full of anxiety, thinking if this doesn't work, I'm screwed. So as a result, the next key milestone we say is first value. First value is not completing of the onboarding process. That's your internal checklist. First value is when your champion's boss or peers tells the champion you made the right decision. It's getting that social affirmation. Now, clearly, you can't drive execution to that. So as a result, what we need to do is come find the right usage milestones that coincide with getting that social affirmation. From a strategic standpoint, minimizing time to first value has huge strategic implications. For example, if it's not short, you can never do product-led growth. Next is sort of milestones about driving it to standard workflow, full deployment, new use cases. For shortage of time, I'll just sort of keep running ahead. And the last stage, we say, of the champion journey, it's not a multi-year contract, it's not full deployment, it's making your champion a hero, which is making them an industry celebrity or getting them promoted. I was on the board of Marketo for 10 years, and what Marketo did really well was show a path for Marketo users to become future CMOs. Because what Marketo users were doing was how to do email marketing, with that to do demand generation, so they became directors or VPs of demand generation, and then CEOs are looking for CMOs who could generate pipeline. And so once you have these champions become heroes, what works really well is to showcase these hero stories. And this is a quote from Chandar, who is CMO of Marketo and now is CMO of Coupa. He says, these are not customer case studies. It's not about showcasing success with your product. Instead, these stories should showcase your champion success as crusaders of changes of your companies. Make your champion, not your product, the hero of the story. So if you go to Dreamforce, you'll see big pictures of customers for that reason. And so with these hero stories, you can drive thought leadership. And what is thought leadership? It's just really explaining a path for a user to become a hero. And then with that, you can build a community of current and wannabe heroes, which is about understanding these stories so that they can become a hero themselves. The first Marketo conference I went to, there were 15 people. I asked, why are you here? And she goes, well, I flew from Florida to California because I wanted to hang out and learn from the best marketers. Several years later, Las Vegas, 6,000 people. I asked the person sitting next to me the same thing, and she goes, I came out here to also learn from the best marketers so I can become a great marketer myself. It wasn't about learning how to use Marketo. It was about how I can be a superstar marketer in the future. So we call this customer journey the hero customer journey because it ends with our champion becoming a hero. And the terms we found very important: urgent pain, date wow, and sort of going through these sort of specific 9 steps. And we tie it to the sort of the feeling of the champion. Urgent pain is what gives them urgency. The date wow is what converts someone to a champion. The merry wow is what drives consensus within the buyer. First contract builds anxiety. First value is when you deliver relief. And ultimately, hero is how you make someone's career. Now, frameworks I found are helpful. Everyone likes them. It provides insights. But if you can't measure them, they're useless. Because the only way you really drive execution is you need to measure. So it turns out we have this customer journey, and usually at some point when I do these workshops for our companies, they go, wow, this is just more homework for me. But then what they do is then they tie it to their CRM, and then they can start measuring. So urgent pain is the number of days from awareness to first meeting. Your conversion rate from first engagement to active engagement is your date wow. If you have a high percentage, you have a good date wow. Low percentage, you have none. And just sort of working in this manner. So it's important to measure, and ultimately, as I said, number of days to first value. If it's sales-led, you measure from first contract. If it's product-led, you really should measure from first engagement. But that metric really will drive a lot of your go-to-market. So this is the way that you sort of measure your hero customer journey. And then, from a business standpoint, what we want to do is we want to acquire new customers and we want to grow existing customers. And it turns out that these sort of key milestones, the customer journey milestones, are critical to achieving that. For example, as I said, if you don't address an urgent pain, it's very hard to acquire new customers. If you have long time to first value, you tend to churn customers and so forth. So now let's go to the next part, which is combining it with the playbook, which is the surfboard. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to take this concept of customer journey, which is how we basically quantify customer empathy and make it executable. And to make it executable, you have to combine it with a playbook. And so we'll talk about that. And so going back to April Ko, we did a podcast with her, and she said that she cannot understate the importance of our book and of helping her find go-to-market fit. And the 2 things she said was really helpful was to map out the go-to-market playbook in a very scientific way and really find these wow moments because they drive conversion. Otherwise, you have a playbook, you run all these plays, but you don't convert. So let's talk more about what is a customer journey-driven playbook. What it is it combines this hero customer journey of what customers want with all the different playbooks. And what playbooks do is they just document internal processes. So together, you want to find the right playbook, which is a surfboard optimized for the wave. What I find right now, if you search go-to-market playbooks, there's tons of examples. but there's none that combines it with a customer journey, especially this hero customer journey that we're talking about. If you don't combine it with a customer journey, you have a playbook which talks about what teams do, but the market changes. And so when the market changes, you don't know why your playbook's not working. The best example, think of Zoom. At the beginning of the pandemic, it was an urgent pain, and today Zoom is not an urgent pain. So you can't run the same playbook. So when you combine the two, what you get is playbook gives you repeatability in terms of what your teams do. Hero customer journey outlines what your champion wants. And so with that, you can repeatably advance your customer, your champion, along that journey. And that's what drives you momentum. So how do you do it? Let's just sort of quickly go through an example of how we lay out the customer journey, we match it with the CRM stages, and then identify the advancers. So this is like a quick summary of the customer journey for Mobile Iron. Mobile Iron is a mobile security company which took off with the iPhone. And so the champion was the mobile IT manager. The boss would be like the CIO. The use case initially was secure work email on the iPhone. The urgent pain was simply CEO, execs, get iPhone for Christmas, come to work after the holidays and say, I want to switch from BlackBerry to iPhone. IT says, we don't support iPhone. CEO says, that's not an acceptable answer. Okay, that's an urgent pain, right? And another urgent pain was employees were buying a lot of iPhones and then wanted to bring it in and use them in their office, and so that's BYOD, so pressure there. So that's the urgent pain. That's what gets a meeting the next day. Okay. Now the next question is why Mobile Iron? Why it converts the prospect to a champion. So for BYOD, IT department was right now handling BYOD. Employees leave, they have to wipe all the corporate data. It took about 2 hours for phone. With Mobile Iron, they could push a button, it'll be done like that. So the IT manager was saying, I could waste all my time, or all of a sudden this makes my life so much easier. That's a really cool thing I needed. That was a date well. All of a sudden now you went from a prospect to a champion. In the same way for the execs, being able to secure native email so you still have the iPhone experience was a date well. So that's what got the champion, but that's not enough. Because you had to get the CIO, you got to get the CISO, you got the CFO, you have to get committee. It's like getting the family, right? And so for BYOD, the key is that Mobile Iron had a full deployment with references of how to do BYOD, what your HR policies, all that should be in place. CIO looked at it and goes, this is great. This is the safe solution and easy, and so went with it. In the other case here, it was about the enterprise app store, because they looked at the app store, saw it was a cool way of delivering all these items, and said, we need to do the same. It was strategic, but if you ask them how many apps do you have right now, the answer was none. So it was not what they needed right now, but it shows it's the right long-term solution. So the next thing then is you just have to match the Mobile Iron CRM stages, because that's what your teams do, to the customer journey. And whether you have sales-led or product-led, you have different stages and all that, so different kind of matching. And this just gives you an example for Mobile Iron to show how the two match. And then with that, you can figure out what plays do you need to run. So obviously, if this is your date wow, then you want to have a demo which really highlights the date wow. If your urgent pain is that the execs want to replace BlackBerries with iPhones, it turns out building a channel strategy at that time with AT&T and Apple turns out to be the best way of getting leads. So by doing this, you can see what plays to run at that time that will then drive conversion. And ideally, you want to make this one page so that it becomes easy for people to read and to implement. So when you put this together of combining the hero customer journey with the playbook, it does more than just unlock growth. It aligns the entire company behind helping customers advance along the journey. It builds a customer-centric culture because you're talking about how to make your champion a hero. It's not how you sell more. It's not about getting renewals. It's about how you help the person with their careers, and they can sense it. It's different. Because it's one page, you can ramp new go-to-market employees quickly. And then lastly, what we're finding is that having one framework, one vocabulary allows execs to speak one language. So you can diagnose and quickly fix problems. And that's what we're going to talk about next, is fixing problems. Because no matter how good your go-to-market is or your playbook, you're going to have to fix it at some point. And so we're going to talk about an example of where a company missed their bookings, and it turns out there are different reasons, but it's because they had poor conversion after first meeting, and then they're in a panic to fix it and all that. So this is about tuning your playbook. And so it's about how you fix your go-to-market problem. The typical way companies fix their go-to-market problem is to assign it to, who's responsible for that stage. And we find that the only answer is really to come up with the right cross-functional team. But when you say cross-function, it gets confusing, and so you have to figure out what they need to do in particular. So let's talk about the problem here, which is poor conversion after first meeting. So what that means is that after your first engagement, you have a high drop-off here. So what most companies do is say, well, who's responsible for that? Sales is responsible for it. So sales execution problem, sales go fix it. Other teams all sort of breathe a sigh of relief and work on their own issues. That's typically what happens. What we're saying, though, is that if that's the problem, then what's the cause? And typically, the reason why you have poor conversion there is that you don't have a date well. In the last 10 workshops I did with our companies, it was with the execs, and then I asked the product head, are you working on a date well? And he goes, no. They work on a merry while, but not a date well. And the reason is when the date doesn't show up in the second date, they have no reason why. So they don't know what to work on. If they lose an eval, they have a lot of data, so they're working on the merry well. But without a date well, what can sales do? So that's the first thing is, working with sales on the date well. Another reason we see is because the leads that marketing generates doesn't match with sales. And you can see that for this company here, is the green is sort of new pipeline being generated by marketing. So marketing thought was doing a great job because new pipeline generation inbound was really ramping up. But then we look at sales conversion of that pipeline, and you see a significant decrease. And what happened is that marketing started pushing a new use case sales was not ready for. So it's important to have that urgent pain and the date well aligned. Otherwise, you generate leads you can't convert. This is another thing about time to first value. And so this is another one of our companies where you see how they started measuring time to first value, and I was wondering, why even measure when it's so long? But they kept working on it, and it got down to a point where it was fast enough that the product took off. So that's what we find, that the way you measure easy is time to first value, and you can see how that it takes off. So what happens is that if you want to solve this problem of poor conversion after first meeting, you need sales to lead it, but you have to solve the underlying problems in the hero customer journey, such as the urgent pain, the date wow, and time to first value, and that requires a cross-functional effort. In the same way, if you have an onboarding issue, typical answers say, hey, customer success, you're responsible for it, you fix it. But it's important to look at the underlying reasons in your hero customer journey, identify those so that you can be in a position to fix it. So when it comes to tuning your surfboard, which is like fixing go-to-market problems, the key is to figure out how to build the right cross-functional team so you can then address the underlying hero customer journey problems. And so that's why having this hero customer journey sort of provides you the intellectual framework. Then you can see what you need to fix to achieve your go-to-market issue. So we look at unlocking growth. As I said, is sort of this, it feels like you're catching a wave as you're going from paddling to surfing. So between founder growth and scaling growth, you need to find this unlocking growth. We find that very few people have that experience. There are a lot of people with scaling growth, but unlocking is different. And for unlocking, we say that it's a 3-step process where you have to outline this hero customer journey, which is a 9-step process. And it's really the champion's hero journey. That's like reading the wave. The second is building the customer journey playbook, which is combining the customer journey of what customers want with your playbook, what teams do. Otherwise, you can't get execution. The first sort of tells you what you need to do. Second is what you should do. And then the third is how you fix it. Okay? And so by doing that, then you're in a position that you can unlock growth and start scaling. So I just want to give you another way that we look at this is this is a typical company journey. You have a founding idea, you get product market fit, happy customers, 1 million ARR, 10 to 20 customers. You need to find your go-to-market to unlock growth, and then you scale growth to become your category leader and the mythical surfing unicorn. That's how our unicorns come to be. But many startups find product market fit but struggle to unlock growth. And so what we say is that when you find product market fit with an urgent pain, otherwise it's just hard to get more customers, so with an urgent pain, and then understand your hero customer journey so that you can build your playbook, which is that repeatable motion, but it's a customer journey playbook, not any playbook. And then last is know how to fix it with a cross-functional effort, because as teams grow, they will just become silos. And so with that, ready to be a surfing unicorn. Well, I really appreciate this, and yeah, so thank you. And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I'd love to get feedback, and LinkedIn is the best way. And as I said, this is something we've been working on for a long time. Yes. And
excellent.
We'll keep working on.
Yeah,
yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to take some time, just a couple minutes for some Q&A, one or two, and I'll come over. Does anybody have a question? A question? Yeah, fantastic. All right. Come back over here.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you very much. When you talk about first value, maybe prior to an onboarding being complete or an implementation being complete, what would be an example in your mind, even with some of your portfolio companies, of a first value? That, especially one that maybe you can get to quick.
Yeah, sure. In Mobile Iron's case, I said is that exec wants email. The exec wanted to have work email on their iPhone, right? First value is when the exec was able to get work email on their iPhone. To say that onboarding was, well, did you get training? Did you get all these connections done? There are all these things, But until the execs get that, there's not first value.
Excellent, thank you. We got time for, I think, one more. Oh, there we go, awesome.
When do you convert from channel marketing partnerships into more product sales-driven internal growth?
I'm sorry, what was the question? Is channel to product?
When iPhone was distributing through
Yes.
AT&T and then they transitioned into doing it themselves,
yes.
When does that inflection point kind of kick in?
Well, I mean, are you talking about for AT&T or Mobile Iron?
For Mobile Iron. Right?
Oh, Mobile Iron, the relationship was never a resale relationship by AT&T. In the beginning, it was just purely referral. Basically, AT&T and Apple just wanted to sell more iPhones to the enterprise, and until you have security checked off, they could not sell it. And so they would refer customers to Mobile Iron. Okay, so they're just getting referrals. And yeah, to relieve the urgent pain. It's not because they wanted to send customers to Mobile Iron. It had nothing to do with that. It's because of the urgent pain. And then later on, AT&T signed a reseller agreement with Mobile Iron. But big companies take a long time, so signing that agreement took many months, I think a year to negotiate. Sales reps wanting to close deals go a lot faster.
Excellent. Great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Great talk. Give them a round of applause. Storm Ventures.